Hello, Natalie. So
Hello,
glad you
hello,
could join
hello.
us. Sheena, good to
Um,
see you. Kathy, welcome in.
Natalie, so nice to see you. Sheena, as always, it's great. Kathy, thanks for being here with us. And I have I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I might be a little wiry, although I am always wiry. You know that. Sheena knows that, Kathy. You guys see me, but a little while after Christmas, our coffee maker broke down. So we were at an Airbnb and my wife fell in love with this Keurig cafe, it's called.
Oh,
So it makes the coffee for you, and then it's got a like this frother thing, all and so I'm on to my third cup of coffee, which is not
oh
good for
God.
me.
Help us
And
all. Oh my gosh.
Jamie's already shaking her head, going, "Oh man, we're in for a zinger."
Yeah, but
But I just can't resist sometimes,
Sheena says that she loves wiry Mark.
Well, good. I'm glad you wouldn't be here if you didn't. So, yay.
Could be a 3 hour call, I think. All right.
No,
Well,
hopefully with on my caffeine buzz, I'll be fast and we'll
okay. We'll be on,
blast
on
through things.
task.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we
Yes.
can get started. Mark, if you want to share your slides, I know we were talking about like welcome
Yeah, let's
in.
dive right in.
And people may join throughout. So we'll just, if you hear a doorbell, I'll let them in. Okay.
And we're recording this as always. And I think like all these calls, you're gonna want to go back and watch this one a few times. Because we're gonna have some good stuff here that we're gonna cover.
Have 3 cups of coffee first, but yeah.
Pardon me?
They should have 3 cups of coffee before they watch.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, have your cup of coffee and at hand for sure. So I'm gonna move some screens around, make sure I don't have anything blocked here, and let's get to it. Cheers.
Cheers.
So we're gonna talk about something that's near and dear to everybody, and that's the idea of yay,
Natalie,
the dreaded sales call. It's something that everybody has this massive fear about, and what I want to do, my goal today, is to turn that around for you, to have you so excited to be meeting with people and on a call with them that you just can't wait, that everything you do is going to be geared towards getting people on calls so that you can talk to them. And I know it is for me, and I tell people when I meet with them, this is my favorite part of the gig. I absolutely love getting on calls with people. And as we get into this, you'll see why. And I'm going to give you some tips and some things here that are going to put you in that direction. So let me get my slides moving here. Okay. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to cover the biggest single obstacle to selling. And we're going to talk about understanding what we need to do to instantly turn this dread and fear into love and excitement. And the third thing we're going to cover is the essential steps to make that happen. So not just fluff, not just a hype mark on caffeine, but some really serious steps, to go through this. Now, full disclosure here, we're gonna blast through this in about 20 minutes, and I got to let you know that in 20 minutes we're not going to turn you into the master. We're not going to flip probably a lifetime of beliefs and negativity and programming over and flip that on its head, but we're going to give you some serious skills to start to reprogram the way you think. Now, I want you to listen for just one thing. And, this is something that I learned from a fellow. I was in a car driving from Detroit to Cincinnati for a learning event. And we were all talking about our expectations for this event. Everybody had these big, grand expectations of this event. And one of the fellows said, well, you know what? He said, I am expecting nothing and I'm going to be thrilled with everything. And I thought, what a cool attitude to have. And then somebody else said, I always go to these events just looking for one thing. One thing. I love, she has got Red Bull in the background there. That's Mark this morning, yeah. But that one thing, if I can take away one thing, then it's worth the investment. It's worth the investment of my time. I mean, we were going away for a 3-day event, driving, staying in a hotel, meals, all the 9 yards. But one thing, I thought, wow. And I adopted that. I was probably 20 years old at the time. And I adopted that philosophy. So whenever I go into anything, even if somebody might look at it and at the end, everybody says, that was rubbish, that was horrible, I always look to come away with one thing. And you know what? I always do come away with one thing. So me rambling on caffeine here. So yes, there is going to be one big takeaway, and it has the potential to change your world. So I want you to tune in, really tune in, because I'm going to ask you what the one thing is a little later in our talk. So listen for it. Put your radar on. Turn your ears on. So the other thing I'm going to suggest you do is stick around. Stick around till the end. If you're watching the recording of this, and we know many of you over time, the vast majority of people will see this as a recording, as opposed to being here live with us, and that's okay. But stick around till the end, and there's a good reason for that, as always. One concept or tactic alone is not going to change anything for you, so don't take that one takeaway and run away with it. Stick around, because context is important. You want to get the whole picture. And the other reason is we're bribing you. We're going to give you a little gift at the end. So, and it's not a little gift, actually, it's a huge gift. So stick around for that big, powerful gift that's going to tie all this in a nice big ribbon for you. So let me ask you a question. Do you experience dread and fear when you think about getting on a sales call? Go ahead and type yes in the chat. Type yes for me. And you'll hear me talk on these calls about playing in the sandbox with me. So this is a safe place. Don't be a spectator, be a participant. Play in the sandbox with me. So go ahead and pop that in the chat. I can't see the chat, but Jamie can, so she's going to give me thumbs up when we have participation. So that's great. Thank you, Jamie. So when you think about it, though, let's pause for a minute. And I also want you to put this in the chat. What comes up for you? What are the feelings? What do you dread? What are you afraid of? Just jot down. It can be a single word. It can be a phrase. Just give us a couple little things there.
We've got rejection. I think I'm not smart enough. I put down being inauthentic, imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. Thank you. I'm going to come back to those later. So thank you for playing in the sandbox with me, because that's really important that we identify these things. So why is it important? Why is it important that we get over these things, these fears, these obstacles? Because here's the reality. It's impossible to establish a relationship of value without having a conversation with someone. That's just the reality of it. And that goes for selling anything, selling your child on going to bed or eating their vegetables, selling your spouse on having a romantic evening or maybe even getting frisky, selling your boss on getting time off or a new concept that you want to do. We have to converse. We're human beings. That's what we're built to do. Now, when you're in a business building situation, that's critical. The second thing is your prospect needs to feel understood. They need to have their pain validated before they will decide to work with you. We've all probably heard that expression, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's critical that we get into that way of thinking and that we realize this is the pathway to making things happen, not for us, but for both of us, for mutually beneficial outcomes. And the third thing is it's the fastest and easiest way to grow your business. The fastest and easiest way to grow is by talking to people, by validating what you're offering. So I'm going to just flip gears here a little bit and address one of the things that somebody said, which was about a fear around being right or having it right or I can't remember what it was. Jamie, help me again. It was being
I think I'm not smart enough, being inauthentic.
I think I'm not smart enough. Okay. So this idea of validating your offer or your solution, a lot of people get hung up on this, that they think they have to have this unique, absolutely perfect, polished solution. And nothing could be further from the truth. All you need to start with is an idea and, most importantly, a feeling. I think and feel like I can solve this problem. Now let me go out there and see if I can validate that thought and feeling. And we do that by speaking with people who have that problem. We go out there and speak to them and say, let's bounce this around. Let's see if I can help you get to where you want to go. So let me ask you another question. When you're on a sales call, what is your number one job? What's your highest priority on that call? Just jot down whatever comes up for you in the chat. Jamie, I'm going to ask you not to tell me what comes up.
Okay.
Let's save that, and I'm going to ask you for those later, okay? Because we're going to circle back to this one too. So if you're a fan of anything this way, or I'm going to a little learning lesson. Jamie knows this well. As I'm creating loops, open-ended loops here. So I'm turning your brain on, and I'm opening up a loop, and I've created 3 of them so far, so that your brain is going to be open to receiving what comes next. It's a great way to learn, and it's a great way to teach too. Sheena knows this stuff. She's a master at this. So let's talk about selling with style and ease. How can we release these feelings of dread and fear and move to a place where we're actually excited to jump on a call with somebody, where we actually love sales calls? Now, if you happen to be on the call last week, you may recall last week that I said something. And I don't know, can anybody remember what it was? And I'll give you a hint. I said, what is your number one job as a coach? Does anybody remember what I said? It's okay, because I closed the loop last week. But it'll entice you to go back and watch that last week's training. Your number one job is to think. That's what people pay us the big bucks for, is to think, because they're busy doing. So they need us to do the thinking so they can do things better and faster and easier. Okay, so our number one job is to think. So loving sales is not about the perfect script. It's not about learning exactly what to say, or even how to say it for that matter. That's something that will come from you if you follow this process that I'm talking about. It'll come naturally to you. It'll come comfortably, and it'll be unique to everyone on this call. So it's not about those things. It's about how you think, how you use your brain. And I'm going to suggest to you that the way you're using your brain when it comes to getting in a call is understanding what drives a person to make decisions. So that you're thinking about that. What drives a person to make decisions, and then using empathic communication skills to help them make a decision. And that's a mouthful. But understanding how people make decisions, and then using empathic communication skills to help them make a decision. And I'm going to take some of that gobbledygook, that techno speak, and see if I can put that into real language for you. But it begins with, let me get my clicker here going, your mindset. How we think, right? I just said that, how we think. So we need to set ourselves up and our mindset up to have it in the right place. Once we have our mindset right, and you can get really good at this, by the way, doing it in an instant. A lot of people think, oh, mindset, you're going to give me some things I need to go and meditate for an hour before I get on every sales call. No, it could literally be like that. Just snap of a finger. It's just shifting your mind so that it's set. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you how you can do that in a moment here, but I'm going to run through some overview here. So the next thing, where's my mouse here, is to lead. You need to lead the process. You need to lead the call. Really, really important. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to spend some time diagnosing, figuring things out. How many of us have been in a situation where, maybe we're shopping for, a car? We're talking big ticket items here, by the way. We're not talking about going out and buying some gum. We're talking about, high ticket items here. But, how many of us have been in that situation where somebody just goes right into the spiel, right? They don't care about us. They're not diagnosing anything. They're just pitching us. Happens all the time. Jamie and I have been on a number of those calls where we're just going, oh. But it does happen. So we need to break that up first, diagnose. And I'm going to talk a lot about diagnosing in a minute here. Once we diagnosed, then we're in a position to prescribe. So think about this for a minute. If you had a problem, a health problem, and you walked into a doctor's office, and the first thing he did was pull out his prescription pad and say, here, take this to the pharmacy and pop these pills. You probably you'd run out of the office, then you'd rip that prescription up and you'd throw it in the garbage, wouldn't you? And yet this is what a lot of people do. They should on their prospects. You'll hear me say that all the time, Natalie, if you're not familiar with that, the idea of shoulding on people. So, and how does it feel when you're should on? Not very good, does it? So we want to get that caring and that understanding in there by first diagnosing so that we understand, then prescribing. Sorry, I got to get to my Java. Mm-hmm. Then once we've done that, finally we come to agreements. We agree on something. So this kind of takes this whole idea of what we think of conceptually as the sleazy salesperson who's going to run through a bunch of techniques that's going to trick you into buying and close you. And you go away feeling yucky. And these days, the way the laws have evolved is we can just turn around and return that, right? I mean, even to the point of, I'm in Canada, by the way, so a little different here. But if you go to buy a house here, you can actually walk away from that deal before the contract ever comes to conclusion. That's how tough our consumer protection laws are. Literally, I mean, you can have a deal, a real estate deal that closes 6 months from now, and you can walk away a day before that 6-month closing date. Wow. What it's done, interestingly, people probably go, how can anybody sell houses in that kind of environment? What it's done is it's forced the real estate industry to be very good at what they do, to make sure that somebody's getting the right product for them, that they're not being forced into anything, that they're not buying over their head, that all of the ducks are in a row. So it actually works. A lot of people freaked out, by the way, as these laws became tougher. And we know that we've got the same thing happening across the world. Europe's even stronger, by the way. America's probably the loosest, other than maybe some other countries, some smaller countries. But in terms of this idea of consumer protection, like walk-away clause, what do we call them? Cooling off periods, right? We're seeing cooling off periods in more and more contracts all the time.
Natalie's in Canada.
Close. Let's think about agreements. Sorry, Jamie.
I was saying Natalie is also in Canada. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yay, Canucks. So let's dive into this a little deeper here. So the whole mindset piece. So when I asked you, I just revealed here, but that's okay because I already asked you this question. When I asked you what your number one job is, or your highest priority on a sales call, Jamie, what kind of things came up?
Okay. So we've got, let me scroll up here. To find out their pain point, commitment that they get value, how I can help, and connecting with the person so they trust you. Love it. Great. Now, I'll tell you some of the other things that we get sometimes too, and this can be in people's mind: close the sale, get the order, get the credit card number, make it happen. Jamie and I go through this all the time, right? This idea of letting go of that outcome, letting go of what I want, if you will. So I would suggest to you that an alternative way of thinking, and by the way, I love those answers because they're all pieces, and I think you're going to see how they fit in. Everything that was said there is going to fit beautifully into what I'm going to talk about next. But I'd suggest that the way of thinking, and for many people, it's an alternative mindset. This is that one thing that in and of itself can remove all dread and fear and actually turn your sales calls into an experience of joy. And that is this idea that you're helping someone get what they want. And even further to that, that you're helping them make the best decision, not for you, but for them. So if we can let that idea of an outcome for ourselves go, and we can just say that's, so Zig Ziglar, if anybody knows who he is, he was an old sales guy who actually did teach a lot of tricks and techniques and all of this stuff. But Zig used to say, help enough people get what they want and you'll get what you want. And it really is that simple. So, but we get stuck, we have to do that. So what we need to do is shift our thinking. So release all thoughts around what's in it for you
and focus 100% of your energy on what's best for them. So how do we go about doing that? So I want to give you a model here. I've given you, the overview at the top here, but let's kind of go more in depth into this in terms of what do these things mean? Lead, diagnose, prescribe, and agree. So when it comes to leading, we want to set an agenda. So we want to, Jamie loves this. Jamie loves agendas. I just
wrote that down because I was going to mention it at the end. So I love that
Yeah, like how many times, and if you're inexperienced in sales, and even actually old school salespeople, they get in this habit of just rambling, of just jumping in. And, how many people have done this? You're on a call and then you're just getting along great with somebody and everything's going really well. And then next thing you know, your hour is up or whatever, and you go, oh, I got to go. I never did get to telling you what to do, or what we can do for you. We'll have to schedule another call. By the way, me, Mr. Talkative, I first one to step up and say that happens to me, not as much anymore. Why? Because I lay out an agenda. And I want to bring out one other thing here too, is this idea of rapport. There's kind of an old school way of thinking, and it is old school that, we need to first make sure that somebody's our best buddy. They love us. We're going to get together for drinks. We're going to go out. We're going to plan a vacation together. We got to do all that first, and then they'll buy from us. Bull. It's an old school technique. It actually came out of the selling stocks kind of field. That's where my understanding of it is, that it came, those guys that would call on the phone. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that, but they call on the phone and they convince you into buying some crazy stock that you never heard of before. It was really sleazy sales, but one of the techniques that they used to use is the first thing you got to do to drive the wedge in is get something in common. So you start, hey, did you watch the game last night? No, I'm not into sports. Oh, hey, have you got kids? Like, they just go through this whole spiel about finding a wedge that they can get in there, that they can get in common with you, chatting about that, and then flipping it around. Anyhow, it's all old school. It's not real. Now, let me give you an example of this that I think will really hit home for you. And I'm going to suggest something to you, is that when you're on a call, people, in fact, don't even need to like you. So think about this for a minute. If somebody's having a heart attack, do they need to go, wait a minute, I got to make sure that I like you? No. They just need to know that you know CPR. That's all they care about. Now, when we're dealing with prospects, it's the same sort of idea. And you've heard us talk about this before, is that we have to find this real issue that they're struggling with. We're there to help somebody. If somebody's just going, it'd be nice to have, or whatever, or I thought one day I'd like to get my nails done or whatever, that's not what you're there to do. You're there to help people with truly big transformations. How do I find my ideal partner? How do I get out of this dead-end job? How do I help my kids with their self-esteem and to build an environment where they're going to go on and do something great with their life? These are big transformations that we're talking about doing here. We're not playing small. And we got some old, not old, but other trainings about that. So I won't go too far into that. But this idea that when you're going after a big transformation, people don't need to know that they like you. They just need to know that you got something they don't have, which is a solution. So we can transfer very quickly. We can build rapport very quickly by saying, let me just take control of this conversation and tell you how this call is going to go. Now, that in itself can be a relief. And in fact, it really is, because how many times we get on a call and, we're dancing around, they're dancing around, and the person is very uncomfortable because they're going, where are they going to take me? What are they going to go? Where are they going to go with all of this? When are they going to pull out that hammer and hit me over the head with it? But if we lay it all out in the beginning and we say, here's where we're going on this little journey together. We're going to be together for 50 minutes or 15 minutes. And this is what we're going to do in those 15 minutes. So you're taking control, and that's giving them a sense of ease. You're also disclosing everything that's going to happen. So again, they go, oh, so you're not going to pull out any sneaky tricks on me? No, this is what we're going to do. This is the agenda. This is how our conversation is going to go today. Oh, I can breathe a sigh of relief. Then we're going to get into this idea of diagnosing what's going on. So how do we do that? How do we stay in control? I call it the art of asking questions, getting really good at asking questions. So like the doctor, prescribing a solution or even quoting a price for that matter before we understand what's going on, that's in the medical trade, that would be malpractice. So think about that. If you're jumping right to a sale or you're telling somebody how much you charge or what you're going to do for them and you don't really understand if there's a fit, you're actually committing malpractice. So what's your goal in this diagnosis stage? Well, your goal is to clarify where they are now and where they want to be. So between the two is the gap. There's a gap. That's why we're on this call. There's a gap between where I want to be and where I am now. And I'm hopeful that maybe you can close that gap. Now, here's the reality is many people don't even understand that. They don't even understand that there's a gap. They just understand that they're having a heart attack, right? And they want that pain to go away. So we need to highlight that. We need to help them understand by asking questions and for ourselves to understand where they are now and where they want to be. Now, here's a couple little tips here for you. One of them is resist the urge to jump to prescribing. Again, I'm going to step up and volunteer myself that this is a weakness of mine, is somebody's talking and I've done this so many times and they're doing, and I go, oh, I know what the solution is. Let me just jump in and tell you what to do. So we have this. So you've got to resist that and just nod, take notes, keep asking questions and going through this process. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is the big takeaway. I've given you a few now, but this is it. So I'm giving you a warning here. If you get nothing else from this, this is the big takeaway. Okay? I can't be any more direct than that. That you're going to have to deal with discomfort. It's gonna hurt. Now, here's the big question. Who's it gonna hurt? You or them? Now, this is where a lot of people get into trouble. So see, that's the gap. And the problem with the gap is the person wants to stay in their comfort zone. They want what they want, but they don't want to go out of their comfort zone because it's nice and warm and fuzzy in here. It's great. There's discomfort in going out of that zone and going for what they want. So the takeaway is, who is going to go into their discomfort zone? Who's going to get uncomfortable here? You or them? I'll tell you what happens. And I hope this is a huge takeaway. Pretty much all the time when people are struggling with sales, the salesperson goes into the discomfort of the uncomfortable zone. And that's why it's dreaded. And that's why you don't love it, because it's uncomfortable. So the key here is learning to stay in your comfort zone. What makes you uncomfortable? Them being uncomfortable. People getting resistant, and they can display this in any number of ways. Here's one big one. That's really expensive. Oh, that's way too much. Nobody should charge that much. That's outrageous. Now, that's an easy hook. That's for us to get really uncomfortable and go, oh, then who's in control? They're in control. So this is where we need to recognize that that's just them expressing their discomfort. That's actually a great sign. It means that they're starting to push the envelope. They're going, ooh, this hurts. And there are many ways that people strike out when it hurts. Some people can get very egotistical. They go, oh, well, I know more than that. Do you know how much qualifications? Do you know how many years I've been in this business? They might start to pump up their ego. They might threaten their price. They might even insult you. Who are you? How many people have you done this with before? Have you ever dealt with anybody exactly like me? Like, I want to know how many success stories you've got of people that were 50 years and 6 months of age that lived in Massachusetts and that boated when they were a young child and almost drowned and then went into selling and failed at it. How many people like that have you helped get successful? It's just them being uncomfortable. So what we need to do is take a deep breath. and pause and let them go through that discomfort. And how do we do that? By asking questions, by saying, I understand how you feel. How come you feel that way? What's going on here? Tell me more about that. Letting yourself stay in control. Now, there's some things you need to realize about this, and I'm going to take you through this a little bit more here, is that as people go through this, and this relates to what I was just talking about, they feel safe and in control. I'm on the call. Another thing you'll see is this, right? This is somebody that's really, hey, I'm in my comfort zone, damn it, and I'm putting up all the barriers. I got my fist clenched here, and I'm holding my chest so tight. I'm not going to let you drag me out of my comfort zone. That's actually an indication that they're on the cusp, that they're thinking, boy, I really need to make some change here. So you'll see in this particular graphic here, there's this comfort zone, and what they're going to go through is this fear, right? And this is what I mean by defensiveness, like lack of self-confidence. They may cry. They may start to explain, why they can't do it. I can't do this with you. I'm just afraid I'll fail. I just don't have the confidence to make these changes. That can be another example of somebody moving into this discomfort phase. They'll find excuses. Well, now's not the right time. Once I get it all figured out, then I'll hire you. Once I get enough money, then I'll decide to make this pain go away. And they can be affected by the opinions of others. Well, I actually told somebody I was going to be on this call today, a good friend of mine, and they said, oh, what a bunch of quacks. Those people, those coaches out there, they're just milking everybody for every penny they're worth. What a bunch of charlatans, right? So these are all things that come up. But why are they on the call? Because they don't want to feel this way anymore. And the only way to get out of that is to move into where you are. And where are you? You're the teacher. You need to help them get into the learning zone so that they can deal with their problems and challenges, so that you can reveal it to them and help them acquire new skills so that their comfort zone can actually become bigger. And then they can go back through it again, because we go through this cycle all the time, right? And then there's growth after that. How do we even grow beyond that? How do we grow beyond that? By continually recognizing when we're in our comfort zone and moving beyond it, asking for help. So I'm going to pause for a minute here. Jamie, anything to throw in here? Or anybody, any comments? Just throw them in the chat or anything.
This is good stuff, Mark. This is good stuff. Really, I'm impressed with the presentation that you've put together here. So this is all around like being authentic in selling.
Yes,
I mean, it's authentic selling is what you're talking about here.
Exactly, like letting go of having to convince anybody of anything and just saying, I'm here to help you. And anytime you feel that's another, when they start to resist that, you can just even pause and say, hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to understand where you're at and see if there's a way that I can help you get to where you want to go.
I come to
that statement alone can disarm everything.
I do a little like almost like a meditation, I guess you would call it, just before every sales call, that I frame myself into, I'm committed that the person I'm going to speak with gets some help in some way. Like, whether they work with us or they don't, that they leave this call feeling like they've got something to move them forward.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is really, really important stuff. And what you want to do is, instead of resisting it yourself or being fearful of it, just recognize it, just accept it and say, you know what? I'm going to be uncomfortable. So noticing for that feeling is the first step. So when you get on that call, you'll feel it coming up, right? You go, oh, I'm all of a sudden, I'm getting to that, that level, or they said something that triggered me. Don't resist it, just accept it. And here's a little affirmation you hear me use every now and then to tell people, is just say to yourself, I am now comfortable being uncomfortable. And keep moving forward. Because what do you want to do? Do you want to save them? Yeah, you do. Everything in your being is saying, I want to save them and I want to save me. And you literally want to grab them by the hand and you want to run back to that comfort zone. Woo, this is really uncomfortable. Let's both of us run back into the fire. Let's run back into the comfort zone. What we need to do is detach from that feeling, recognize it, acknowledge it, and then let it go. And then you stay in your comfort zone while letting them experience the discomfort. So you have to detach from that. You have to say, whoa. So another example, somebody's getting really fiery on you. Maybe they're even insulting you or they're questioning you. You can literally just go with your intuition here. I do this sometimes and go, whoa, that really struck a chord with you. What was it about that struck a chord with you? What was it about my question that caused you to feel this way? Stay in control by asking questions. And you're going to go through this discomfort period. And what's beautiful about it is you'll all of a sudden find that there'll be a break. It literally is like a veil. And once they cut through that veil, you'll feel the energy change. There's this acceptance that comes like, wow, you know what? I realize that I need to change, that I do want to embrace this. Once they step over that line, now they experience a whole new level of excitement. And if you do this enough, and this is the key, you got to be willing to be uncomfortable to practice this enough to get good at it, you'll find that there's joy on the, and that's what I mean by love and joy of doing this. Because when you start to see people have those breakthroughs, you can't help but the endorphins flow. You can't help but get excited. You can't help but go, wow, I am just jazzed right now. When you see somebody get it, you know, when you see them break through. So let's go on here now to prescribing. This now becomes the way where we circle back now. So we've got all this information, we've identified the gap, and we might ask some questions like, well, how long has this been going on for you? How long are you willing to wait to get what you want? Ooh, that's a powerful one. That's going to stir up some things, right? I know one of our clients that came, on board with us and we've worked with for quite some time now. She was sharing with me that she pulled out a journal of hers. And one of the things she had the habit of doing, and she'll know who she is just by this story, is she'd write in the back of the journal something really important to her. Well, this journal fell out of her, whatever, her bookshelf or something, and she picked it up, and it happened to be serendipitous. The universe was working here, or God, or whatever you want to look at it. It happened to land on this last page. And when she looked at it, she read this, and it was and she read it to me. And she said, guess when I wrote that? It was 3 years ago. And she said, 3 years I allowed myself to stay stuck. 3 years of my life I gave up because I wanted exactly what I'm getting right now 3 years ago, but I resisted every step along the way. And now that I've got it, it's amazing to me. Why did I wait? So really powerful example. So now we get into the prescription, which is, okay, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Let's talk about getting you there. And this is where it's really important too. In our excitement, we can just dive right in and start presenting our offer and giving them all of the solutions. But we want to pause, and Jamie loves this, and she's really good at it, and get permission. Mm. So that is as simple as going, we've gone through all of this. Let me just kind of reiterate some of these things. You say, this is where you are. You say this is where you want to be. We've discussed the fact that you're fed up and that you want to get there now, that you're tired, that you've been working on this for 5 years and it's really been a struggle for you, and that you've had enough, that you really want to get to this new place. So I've got some ideas for you. I believe I can get you there, but it's your call. Would you like to hear what I have to say? Would you like to hear my suggestion for where we can go from here and how I might be able to help you? Then we go into the prescription of what we're going to suggest in terms of what the direction that we're going to go in. And then once we've offered the prescription, then we want to come to what some people might call the close. I like to call it the agreements. And there's really 5 agreements, and these are kind of layered into everything that you've been doing. The first agreement is that we agree that you want better outcomes than you're getting now. And that you want them now. You want better outcomes. The second agreement is that getting those outcomes, getting a better result is actually possible. This is something where a lot of people skip over this too, is they don't do that, and they don't realize that in the person's mind, they're going, yeah, I really, really want this, but all of their beliefs, all of the things have been stacking up for them where they don't even believe it's possible. So we need to confirm that. We need to say, after all of our conversation, are you feeling a little better? Are you feeling like maybe there's a way out? Yeah, I am. Do you believe that you deserve it? Yeah. Can you see this happening for you? Like a year from now, looking back, if this were solved, what would your life be like? Boom. They get it. So that second agreement is getting a better result as possible. The third agreement is that there's something standing in their way that's preventing them from getting the result they want. So this would be what things have you tried to solve this problem on your own? Where have you gone to other people to solve this problem? Jamie was telling me about a client that she was speaking with that had spent a lot of money trying to solve the problem, but didn't get the problem solved. That's okay. As long as they believe, as long as you circle back that there's belief that a better result is possible, it's okay to talk about things that they've tried, okay? So what is the problem that's preventing them from getting the result they want, and that you're the one that can help them solve it? So your prescription needed to lay that out. It needed to confirm that I understand where you're at. I have a solution to your problem. Now let's agree that you didn't know this and that you can't do this on your own, that you need my help, that I can help you get there. The fourth agreement, that if they stay stuck, this problem is costing them in some way. It could be money, could be financial, but it also could be emotional. It could be somebody that saying, if I don't solve this problem, if I don't get over this depression, if I don't find a partner, I don't think I'm going to be alive a year from now. That's a big price to pay. So that's that understanding the gap, right? The cost of not taking action. And the fifth agreement is that it's basically unwise or probably impossible for them to solve this on their own. How many times have you been trying this? How much DIY have you done? And the more DIY you do, how do you feel? More exasperated, more frustrated. Exactly. Because you can't solve a problem in the same level of consciousness that created it. You need an external stimulus, an external method. So we got those agreements that we want to come to. And when we can agree on those things, then the natural conclusion is that we work together to get you on the right step to moving towards the outcomes that you really, really want. Now, how do you develop the skill? How do you pull all this together? You practice. You got to talk to people. And, Jamie and I deal with this all the time, is people that come to us and they want the secret sauce. What is the secret sauce? I want to be able to make sales and have people sign up for me and never have to talk to them and just have the money flowing in. It's not reality. The reality is we need to develop the skills. So how do we begin? Practicing. And I would suggest to you, like the old axiom, even though it's kind of been disproven, but set yourself a goal of 21 times. So I'm going to have 21 conversations where I totally release the outcome. I get to practice diagnosing, understanding where somebody's at, and then suggesting some solutions to them. And seeing if they agree that those solutions are something that can move them to another level. Practice that 21 times, and you'll begin to release some of those old feelings and some of those habits that you've developed over the years. Now, if you really want to accelerate this, you work with somebody like Johnny here, who's a master at this. And what does that mean? Debriefing. Johnny and I talked about this, as a matter of fact, yesterday. Is debriefing on paper, so journaling to yourself, what worked? What didn't work? What could I have done differently? What will I do differently next time? After every call, write those answers to those questions out. Journal to yourself. And then if you really want to accelerate your learning curve, take those notes and speak with your coach. Get a coach. You think about this for a minute. You know, it's amazing to me that how people even question the idea of a coach. I think about, I don't know, do we have any football fans? Anybody watch football at all, or slightly familiar with football? No? Okay. Anybody know who Russell Wilson is? Somebody. So Russell Wilson was the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Won how many Super Bowls? 2, Johnny? 2? 1. Almost a second. Institution. Got traded. Now traded to the Denver Broncos, right? Have I got that right? Yeah, Denver Broncos. This season, total washout. One of the worst teams in the league. Just totally blew it. This guy who was a phenom like a Tom Brady just completely collapsed. Now, do you think he's going to go back and go, hey, I've got all these years under my belt. We're going to start next year and win? No. He's strategizing right now, and I bet he's working with a coach every day. He's working with a coach on his game plays. He's working on a coach with his throwing, with his movement, with his running. He's doing everything he can, and he's probably investing millions of dollars in coaching to develop his skill even further, even though he's a master at his craft. So this idea, I love this sports analogy, because if we think about it, you know, how many people go, oh, I want to go to the Olympics. I think I'm really good at this particular thing, but I'm going to hire a coach after I win my first gold medal. That would be insane, wouldn't it? Wouldn't we think that that was insane? Yet how many people want to become a master at something and never hire a coach? It's ludicrous, isn't it? It's really kind of crazy. Jamie.
I was going to say, I call my consults game plan calls. That's what they are called, because we're going to lay out a game plan. That's
Yep.
the whole plan. So
Exactly. And the game plan, you know, is all about this idea of recognizing where I'm at, where I want to go, and the fact that I can't get there by myself. I have no idea how I'm doing on time, but I know I'm probably going really long here. You know, you're debriefing on paper, debriefing with your coach, working through this, and then committing to mastery, saying, I really want to get good at this. Why do you want to get good at it? Well, isn't it better to say, I want to really develop the skill and become a master so that I can love it, so that I can get excited about this thing, instead of thinking about it as drudgery, instead of thinking about it as something that you dread? What's the gap for you? What do you want to work towards? Develop mastery in this skill and learn how to really, really, really enjoy it. So, what was the one big takeaway? Who got it? Anybody get it? I was pretty direct. I told you when I was going to give it to you.
get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. And who's going to go into who's going to become uncomfortable? Who do we want to recognize immediately? And who do we want to allow them, give them permission to go into to becoming uncomfortable? Your prospect. You staying in your comfort zone and working towards that, even though it's going to be uncomfortable, and letting that person experience the stress and the pain and being okay with that, empathizing with them. You know, it's like years ago, I did a program. I think, Jamie, you probably went through something similar with, I think it was Landmark, right? That you went through. Yeah. So I did a lot of training in similar things, and you may have covered this in Landmark, but this idea when somebody cries, you know, and we've all been conditioned this way, to run over and give them a hug, or to say, don't cry, instead of just letting them be, letting them experiencing and honoring their tears, giving them the space, being quiet for a moment, letting them that space, and then acknowledging that, respecting that, saying, you know, I really appreciate, I really feel honored that you were open enough to share that with me, to share your tears with me. I'm honored to be in that space. So think of your selling process the same way. I'm honored that you're willing. If I'm in that mindset where I feel excited and honored that that I'm willing to let this person get mad at me, that I'm willing to let this person go through their pain and their struggle and their anguish because they can't figure out how to get what they want. That's an honor. That's not something I can even think about getting defensive about or upset about. I want to respect that. So I've covered a lot of concepts here. You know, we crammed this in. I had thought that it was going to be about 30 minutes. It looks like it's more like an hour. But full disclosure, you know, understanding this skill and truly getting the skill takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of work. It takes repetition and practice and drill. And it takes commitment to mastery, to really going down this path. It takes weeks and months and even years. It never ends in reality. I'm always working on this stuff. And it is a key part and a key component of our 90 Days to Clarity and Clients process. So, you know, it's something that we do all the time. As a matter of fact, I've got a call this afternoon and I know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be going into this particular topic. And I've been working with this client, Jamie and I've been working with this client for coming on a year now. So it's a process we constantly work on all the time. And I'm not going to give a big pitch here, but if you want to know more about that, be sure to reach out. In fact, if you want to know more about that, whether you're watching the recording or you're on this call now, just drop "learn more" in the chat and we'll reach out and set a time to talk about, you know, our 90 Days to Clarity and Clients and how this fits into that process. And I'll leave it at that. Now, on to our gift. So as promised, I have a gift for you. And this is there's a comprehensive guide that we put together for people we work with. I know Sheena's used this. Sheena, maybe you could make a quick comment on the process, because I know you and I worked on this quite a bit a while back.
Oh yeah, that helped me tremendously to really get a formula and a format for my sales calls, and just the concept of asking for permission, although yes, from the very beginning. And what really has been working for me too is the just restating what they just said their problem was, because it makes them feel like I understand. So like right before I show them the roadmap, I'll say, so what it hears like you're saying is, and I'll summarize what their problem is. Oh, they love it. Yeah, oh my gosh, oh my God, you understand me so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this really this really did help me. It's long, but you know, if you get through it and read through it all, tremendously helpful.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Sheena. So this is the kind of the Cliff Notes version of it. So this one's shorter, which you have this as well, Sheena, but there's a longer version which we go over and work on with our clients. But this is the kind of the abbreviated, the condensed version, the Cliff Notes version. Is Cliff Notes still a thing, by the way?
I don't know.
Here in Canada, we used to call it Cole's Notes. Do you remember Cole's Notes, Natalie? Yeah. Okay. So in Canada, they were Cole's Notes, and the States, they were Cliff's Notes. But that's what this is. This is a tighter version of that. So this is our gift to you. Just put "selling with style" in the chat, or reach out to us any other methods, and we'll get this to you. It's a PDF, and this will reinforce a lot of what we've talked about today. This is the first time I think we've released this without somebody being a client. So a lot of value in this, a lot of power in this particular document. So do let us know if you'd like that. Johnny, you're going to get all of this. You're just not there yet. you just got to put the reins on. We're working through some stuff together. Let's stay there, but we're going to get to this. And I know you're gonna love this, because you're going to be able to incorporate this and some of these ideas into what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it, so that you can also, incorporate that, or we can incorporate your ideas into this too. So, yeah. So don't get ahead of yourself. I just want to caution you about, but by all means, have a look at this. We'll send this to you, and you can see if you can incorporate this as we build out your roadmap together.
And anybody watching the recording, I just want to mention, if you're watching the recording, send us a note. We're not going to send you the recording plus this, but if you want this, please, send an email or get in touch with us on our Facebook group or wherever you see this posted. And we'll
Yes, wherever you're watching it, be it on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
wherever you happen to be, there'll be a place to leave a comment, and you'll also have our contact information. So you can always just ping us on Facebook chat or Messenger, and also via email too, if you want that.
Natalie, you got it.
Lots of different vehicles for you to get this. So that's our gift to you. And then again, just as I mentioned before, if you're ready to implement, a proven step-by-step method for creating a coaching business that earns you a full-time income, an exceptional full-time income, doing what you love without being stressed, overwhelmed, or simply bogged down doing things that aren't getting you the results that you really, really want, then book a time and let's chat about what it would look like to put together a game plan for you. And you just saw it. You just saw what we're going to do on this call. We're going to diagnose where you're at. We're going to find the gap, and we're going to see if we can find a way to collapse that gap for you. If we can't, then we're going to end the call as friends, and that's okay. But if we can, hopefully we will invite you to work with us, and hopefully we have the opportunity to make those changes for you. So again, if you're watching this, wherever it happens to be, in the comment section, or reach out to us, and just put learn more, and we will reach out to you, and we'll set up a time to chat so that we can talk more about where you're at and what gaps you're experiencing at this point in time. Questions, comments, anything, Jamie, anything in the chat that came up?
No, people had to run. They had like speaking engagements and other appointments. So
Yes.
We will open this up. We'll close this now for the learning part, unless somebody here has a question or comment about that. And then we'll move into implementation, and we'll wrap up this part of our training.